Do you want to know why Zach Wilson is safe as the Jets starting quarterback? 4 touchdowns to 21 interceptions. Those are the combined numbers of Jets backup quarterback Tim Boyle between college and the NFL. If you took all of his lifetime games and put them together, he has thrown 4 touchdowns to 21 picks. And 3 of the 4 came in the NFL. I mean, he's really a great story if you think about it. To throw one touchdown in college and land on an NFL roster is amazing. I'm Glenn Naughton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. So Robert Saleh, it's on the front page of JetNation.com right now, said there will be no changes at offensive coordinator. There will be no changes at quarterback. But they said they will look at personnel. So maybe we'll see an Izzy Abanikanda. Maybe Jason Brownlee will get some targets. So maybe there are some changes on the horizon. But the biggest problems that plague this team right now, Robert Saleh can't do much about it. I know you want to talk. Listen, people want to. Zach Wilson, okay? A lot of people want him benched. I still believe if we were to take this team's problems, if we triage the Jets on offense, right? Triage to sort. They do it. You go to the emergency room. You're wondering why some people are getting rushed right back and some people are waiting 15 hours to be seen because they determine, they sort who's life, limb, or eyesight, who's on the verge of death or losing a limb or going blind, and who's just here because they stubbed their toe. And they triage you and they prioritize what needs to be fixed right this second. And if we did that with the Jets offense, I would say Nathaniel Hackett needs to be fixed right this second. The offensive line needs to be fixed right this second. The wide receivers not being able to separate or catch the football needs to be fixed right this second. Zach Wilson, there are some things you can go through. There are some things he needs to be better at. He needs to process and react quicker. But that to me would be fourth on the list. And Robert Saleh can't do anything about Nathaniel Hackett. He's Aaron Rodgers' guy. The Jets aren't going to do anything that upsets Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, as much as he's loved being in New York, he's got the money and the mindset that I would not be surprised if the Jets did something to piss him off if he went, "Oh, maybe I don't want to be around these guys. Maybe I don't have to play another year." Now, I'm not saying that will happen. I'm not going all, hot takes. Hate hot takes. But the bottom line, you don't want to upset him. You've sent out season ticket invoices now because you want the money now. You don't want the fan base looking at you going, you just demoted or fired. He's not getting fired. Hackett's not getting fired. But you just demoted Aaron Rodgers' best friend. Aaron Rodgers said at his introductory press conference, "I like this, I like that, I like Sal, I like Douglas, something special, building this, blah, blah, blah." What do you say about Nathaniel Hackett? "I love Hackett like a brother. Love him like a brother." So Robert Saleh has no option there. Robert Saleh does not have the choice whether or not to move Hackett. He is as locked in as anybody. Quarterback, Tim Boyle, 4 touchdowns, 21 picks. You're going to go to that guy? And that was in Connecticut. Connecticut, 1 touchdown, 13 picks at Connecticut, 3 touchdowns, 8 picks with the Packers. Um, that's bad. And he's another guy. We go through the list of guys on this team because of Aaron Rodgers, starting with Hackett, then Lazard, then Cobb, then Cook, then Turner. Boyle's another one. Good friend of Aaron, and he's still the number 2 quarterback. Despite his career numbers, despite having proven nothing, Trevor Simeon isn't going to make anyone forget Patrick Mahomes anytime soon. But Trevor Simeon is far more accomplished pro, and from the second he arrived with the Jets up until this very moment, he's on the practice squad, which means anyone else who wants him can take him. That's how little the Jets believe in Trevor Simeon, or it's how stuck they are with not being able to move Tim Boyle for fear of upsetting Aaron Rodgers. So a change of quarterback isn't an option, whether you like it or not. And I still, even if it were a possibility, I wouldn't disagree that neither of those guys are so much better than Zach Wilson that you're getting a better player because you're kind of not. Offensive line, zero continuity. The blocking hasn't been great. And even if it had been great, it doesn't matter because the quarterback play is so bad. Teams are just stacking the box and stuffing the run. The Jets can't run the ball. So you've got no run game because you're not passing it well. And when you're trying to pass it, when you're getting time to pass it, guys aren't getting open. Guys aren't separating. You don't have guys who can separate. Maybe Xavier Gibson, we're seeing more playing time for him. Maybe that'll change as he gets more reps. Jason Brownlee, maybe we'll see some time for him. Like I said, Robert Saleh did say, no changes at coordinator, no changes at quarterback, but we are going to look at personnel. So maybe Izzy Abanikanda gets some run. But have we gotten to a point with Izzy Abanikanda where they're like, damn, we're going to look really stupid if we put this kid in, he breaks a 55-yard touchdown, and we're going to have to answer as to why Dalvin Cook's been getting the carries he has while Izzy's been on the bench. And they'll just say he wasn't ready yet. But look, we saw what he did in college. We saw what he did in preseason. Get him the ball in space, he's going to go. It's not that complicated. Nobody's saying he's going to run through. The teams are going to stack the box against the run, and Izzy Abanikanda is going to break 7 tackles. No, but every now and then you get a guy in space. Dalvin Cook. When I saw Dalvin Cook with those 2 runs he had the other day, probably his 2 longest runs of the season, all I could think to myself was, if that was Izzy Abanikanda, if you had Izzy Abanikanda in space with that much room to work with, he may have done something special. You knew Cook would get what was there, but he wasn't going to do anything special. Abanikanda may have done something special. So maybe he's a guy we'll see. Maybe Abanikanda's on the way. Maybe, again, Jason Brownlee, get him some targets in the red zone. A thought I had the other day, and I actually saw someone posted on the forums at jetnation.com earlier. Why are we not seeing throws to the end zone? Unless it's a Hail Mary. This team doesn't throw the ball into the end zone nearly enough for a team that's not scoring. Like, put some passes into the end zone. I know Alan Lazard's not catching anything, so if you want to make it Brownlee, whoever, throw some jump balls to some of these guys who are 6'2" and up and have these long arms, and let them try to out jump somebody and make a play. So there are other options. There are some things they can do to hopefully get the offense on track. But in terms of quarterback, and in terms of, why aren't we playing this guy and how is Zach still in there? There's not a viable guy behind him. And the guys who are behind him, obviously the team isn't convinced. And I don't disagree, wouldn't be any better. So now if you want to talk about Joe Douglas and a failure to bring in a viable backup, absolutely. And I love Joe Douglas. However, this was a really bad offseason for him. He had a great offseason the previous year, great draft. This year, not at all. Now would it make things a little better if at some point we see maybe Carter Warren get some starts and play well? We're seeing McDonald get more reps. I think McDonald is ready to break out if he just gets the reps. I think that's the only thing holding him back at this point is the opportunity. So I think there are some guys who, may see the field and may make you feel better. And, I just mentioned Abanikanda quite a bit. You get him on the field, you get Abanikanda making plays, you get Carter playing well at tackle, which I think he might be able to do at some point. Then you feel a lot better about the draft class. But as of right now, the way receiver was handled, the way quarterback was handled, not a great job. And a lot of people have criticized Joe Douglas for the O-line. I'm not going to do that. I think he has added a ton of talent to the O-line, but guys just aren't staying healthy. And, we're seeing the drop off from Laken Tomlinson. Nobody saw that coming. You could even say at the time, maybe they overpaid, fine, but nobody thought Laken Tomlinson was going to come in and play as poorly as he has. Nobody, including, obviously, the Jets. So Tomlinson's been a disappointment. AVT can't stay healthy. And then, of course, Schweitzer gets hurt, and McGovern was hurt for a while. So the O-line, to me, is more injuries than talent evaluation and acquisition. You've evaluated and acquired some really good players. They just haven't stayed on the field. But Robert Saleh's got some decisions to make. He said there are some decisions being made. He said we might see some personnel changes. I would imagine that's definitely going to happen on the offensive line again. I would imagine once Roger Saffold is ready to go, he'll be plugged in to play guard. And Max Mitchell, listen, let's give Max Mitchell some credit. I thought he was going to get taken behind the woodshed against Max Crosby, and he wasn't bad. Max Crosby was far more disruptive in that game, was far less of a factor than I thought he would be. I'm not saying he wasn't a factor. He obviously was. But I thought he was going to have a Thibodeau type game. I thought we were going to see 3 or 4 sacks the way Thibodeau did the week before. But Crosby didn't pan out that way. Max Mitchell was a big reason for that. So tip of the cap to him. If you plug in Saffold at guard to take over for Newman, Newman's doing everything he can, but he's a guy, he was a practice squad guy. He shouldn't be in games right now. So he struggled. He got run over on the Zach Wilson interception. So he's got to get better, but I would imagine Saffold's gonna spell Newman at some point when he's healthy. If Mitchell keeps holding his own at right tackle, that'll make life a lot easier. But until they start completing some passes down the field, which is another, we've talked about that. Is Zach not throwing the ball down the field because those are the play calls, or is Zach being ultra conservative and not throwing the ball down the field when it is called? That's something only the guys in that huddle, in that locker room, in that building, only they know that. So we don't have the answer to that. But what we do know is that Robert Saleh has some moves he probably would like to make, but those moves just aren't on the table. He's kind of stuck where he is in some of these situations.